I'm James Carter. One moment, the air in the sterile corridor had vibrated with the hum of hidden machinery, a constant, low thrumming that spoke of control and observation. The next, it clawed at my lungs, biting with the raw, untamed chill of the pre-dawn wilderness, carrying the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves instead of antiseptic. The transition was violent, a jarring expulsion from a meticulously constructed nightmare into a chaotic reality that felt both intimately familiar and terrifyingly alien. Freedom. The word had echoed in the sterile confines of our captivity, a whispered promise of open skies and untainted air, a stark contrast to the oppressive weight of concrete and fluorescent light. But now, standing on the cold, unforgiving earth, the skeletal branches of the winter-bare trees clawing at the bruised canvas of the dawn sky, I wondered if freedom was merely the absence of physical walls and the incessant glare of artificial light, or was it something deeper, something we hadn't yet grasped, a state of mind, perhaps, something that might forever elude us, even out here in the supposed sanctuary of the wild. The eyes of the military, unseen but ever present in the echoing chambers of our minds, felt more constricting, more suffocating than any physical barrier ever could. We had burst out of that narrow service door like startled animals flushed from their den, adrenaline our only fuel, a potent cocktail of fear and desperate hope surging through our veins. The echoing clang of the heavy metal door slamming shut behind us resonated like a final, defiant punctuation mark on our desperate escape, a brutal severing of ties with the horrors we had witnessed within those concrete walls. The immediate aftermath was a disorienting blur of desperate, instinctive movement. Ivan, his weathered face a mask of grim determination, his keen eyes already darting, scanning the oppressive shadows of the surrounding woods, barked hushed, urgent orders. Injuries. James, your side. Sasha, your leg. Artem, stay close. His voice, usually a low, steady rumble, was tight with a palpable urgency, each syllable clipped and precise. We had nothing but the tattered clothes clinging to our sweat-soaked bodies and the precious, weighty tablet Sasha had managed to snatch from the fallen scientist's grasp. A digital Pandora's box brimming with horrifying truths that the military desperately wanted to keep buried. Our first instinct was primal. Flight, deeper into the tangled embrace of the woods, away from the exposed open ground surrounding the ominous silhouette of the facility, where the distant but rapidly growing roar of approaching engines already hinted at the swift and relentless pursuit we knew was inevitable. Ivan, his intimate knowledge of the surrounding terrain, our only compass in this disorienting darkness, pointed us towards a steep, rocky incline. The dense, interwoven tree line offering a fragile, temporary promise of concealment from prying eyes and the inevitable aerial surveillance. Our escape was a torturous, agonizing symphony of pain and exhaustion. My side, where the soldier's brutal takedown had landed, screamed with every jarring step, a constant, searing reminder of the price of our discovery, a physical anchor tethering me to the brutal reality we had fought so hard to leave behind. Sasha's injured leg, though tightly and crudely bandaged with strips torn from my already tattered shirt, protested with each labored movement, sending sharp jolts of agony through her, slowing our already glacial pace to a near crawl. Artem, his young face pale and drawn, etched with a profound fear that transcended the immediate physical danger, stumbled along, his small, trembling hand clutching the frayed edge of Sasha's jacket, the sterile, controlled horrors of the facility still clinging to him like an invisible, suffocating shroud. Paranoia, the insidious residue of our captivity, was a tangible, suffocating presence, a silent, unseen phantom that walked beside us, its icy fingers brushing against the nape of our necks, every rustle of unseen leaves in the whispering wind, every sharp snap of a brittle twig underfoot sent a jolt of adrenaline-fueled fear through our already depleted and exhausted bodies. We spoke in hushed, barely audible whispers, our voices swallowed by the sighing of the wind, constantly scanning the oppressive shadows that danced around us, our trust in the natural silence of the woods irrevocably shattered by the constant, suffocating surveillance we had endured within those cold, concrete walls. Hours bled into a desperate, agonizing scramble for survival. We stumbled upon a small, icy stream, its frigid water a temporary, welcome balm to our parched throats, a fleeting moment of respite in our desperate flight. But the gnawing emptiness in our stomachs served as a constant, brutal reminder of our dwindling resources, our utter dependence on a hostile and unforgiving landscape, the ever-present threat of the infected, though momentarily overshadowed by the immediate and relentless military pursuit, remained a constant, chilling undercurrent of fear, a lurking predator in the periphery of our awareness. We saw their telltale signs: broken branches snagged on unseen limbs, the lingering, sickening stench of decay carried on the damp air, the distant, mournful moans carried on the wind like the lamentations of a dying world. Footprints, Ivan murmured, his voice low and grave, stopping abruptly in a small patch of muddy ground near the icy stream. He knelt beside them, his weathered brow furrowed in grim concentration, his keen eyes tracing the imprints in the soft earth. Military, recent, heading west. He pointed in the very direction we were desperately trying to flee. The chilling realization that they were already tracking us, that our desperate escape hadn't gone unnoticed for long, sent a fresh, icy wave of anxiety crashing through the fragile tendrils of hope that had begun to tentatively bloom in our weary chests. "They're hunting us," Sasha said, her voice tight with a grim certainty, each word laced with a bitter understanding of the relentless nature of our pursuers. "They can't afford for what we saw, what we know, to ever get out. We're a loose end they need to tie up quickly, efficiently, finding a defensible position, a place to catch our breath, to tend to our worsening injuries, and to formulate some semblance of a plan became our immediate and overriding priority. We pressed deeper into the tangled, unforgiving embrace of the woods, the treacherous terrain of fallen logs and uneven ground, growing increasingly difficult, our physical exhaustion compounded by the gnawing, ever-present fear of imminent discovery. Days blurred into a monotonous, agonizing cycle of desperate travel, punctuated by brief, snatched moments of uneasy, fitful rest. We spoke little, our precious energy conserved for the arduous journey. The unspoken fear, a palpable presence between us, the weight of the tablet, the horrifying truth it contained, hung heavy in the air between us, a silent, constant reminder of the immense stakes we were playing for. "We need to find someone," James said one evening, his voice hoarse and weary, huddled beneath a rocky overhang as a cold, relentless rain began to fall, the icy droplets seeping into our tattered clothing. "Someone who will believe us, someone who has the resources to help us get this information out, to show the world what they're doing in those facilities. Who? Sasha scoffed, her face pale and drawn, etched with a deep-seated skepticism born of countless betrayals in this brutal new world. Everyone out here is fighting their own damn war, barely clinging to their own miserable existence. There are resistance groups, Ivan said, his gaze fixed on the rain-streaked landscape beyond our meager shelter. A faint, almost imperceptible flicker of something akin to hope, momentarily illuminating his usually impassive eyes. Whispers, even inside, talk of others fighting back against the military, against this new, brutal order. Whispers, Sasha repeated, her tone laced with a weary doubt. And how in this god-forsaken wasteland do we find these mythical whispers in the middle of nowhere? Artem, who had been uncharacteristically quiet for the past few hours, his usual nervous energy replaced by a subdued, almost preternatural weariness, spoke up, his voice small but surprisingly firm. The ranger station, the one the old man. Before, his voice trailed off. The unspoken memory of our captured sanctuary, the faces of those left behind, still a raw and painful wound in the fabric of our shared experience. He said it was hidden, north, the ranger station, a faint, almost dreamlike memory of a whispered conversation in the fleeting moments of relative safety, a potential sanctuary in the vast, unforgiving wilderness. The old man's directions had been vague, fragmented by time and trauma, but it was the only tangible lead we had, fragile, flickering beacon of hope in the overwhelming darkness that surrounded us. The decision was unanimous, born of sheer desperation and a shared, fragile hope that refused to be extinguished. We would head north. The journey, predictably, was fraught with peril. The infected were a constant, looming threat, their numbers seemingly growing bolder and more aggressive with the passing days, and the signs of recent military activity became more frequent, more unsettling. Discarded ration packs bearing their insignia, broken communication equipment carelessly tossed aside, even the distant, chilling sound of helicopter blades slicing through the sky, a constant, ominous reminder of the forces relentlessly hunting us. The shared crucible of our escape had subtly but irrevocably shifted the dynamics within our small, battered group. Ivan's quiet strength, his unwavering stoicism, became our anchor in the storm. Sasha's fierce determination, fueled by a righteous anger and a refusal to succumb, spurred our weary steps forward. Artem's youthful resilience, though brutally tested, began to slowly, tentatively re-emerge, a fragile flower pushing through cracked concrete. And I, James, clung to the worn leather of my journal, documenting our arduous journey. The weight of the horrifying truth we carried, a constant, heavy reminder of our purpose, the story that demanded to be told. Our arduous journey north led us through a narrow, winding ravine, the steep, rocky sides offering a precarious degree of concealment from any aerial surveillance. The air in the confined space was thick with the cloying smell of damp earth and the decaying remnants of last autumn's fallen leaves. We moved slowly, cautiously, our senses stretched taut, every nerve ending screaming with a primal awareness of potential danger lurking around every jagged bend. Suddenly, a harsh metallic voice, amplified by some unseen device, shattered the fragile silence of the ravine, echoing ominously off the cold, unforgiving rock walls. Halt! Military checkpoint. Identify yourselves immediately. We froze in our tracks, our hearts leaping into our throats, pounding a frantic, desperate rhythm against our ribs. A military patrol. We had walked directly into an ambush, a carefully laid trap sprung at the most vulnerable moment. From behind the jagged cover of large moss-covered boulders that lined the ravine walls, figures in full combat gear began to emerge. Their sleek, black rifles, instruments of death, trained unerringly on our small, exposed group. There were 4 of them, their faces completely obscured by the dark, impersonal visors of their helmets, their movements precise, efficient, and undeniably menacing. Hands in the air. Drop anything you're carrying. Now! The lead soldier barked, his voice distorted and amplified by a small speaker attached to his tactical vest. The sound echoed ominously off the rock walls, amplifying the suffocating sense of immediate threat. Escape seemed utterly impossible. The narrow confines of the ravine offered no immediate cover, no quick or viable route of egress. We were caught in the open, completely vulnerable, like cornered prey caught in the blinding glare of headlights. Ivan slowly, deliberately, raised his calloused hands. His usually impassive eyes narrowed, rapidly assessing the immediate tactical situation, calculating the impossible odds with a grim resignation. Sasha followed suit, her movements stiff with pain, her hand instinctively twitching towards the small, concealed pistol tucked beneath the layers of her scavenged jacket. A desperate hope clutched tight. James, his injured side screaming a fresh wave of agony with the sudden tension, raised his own trembling hands, his mind racing, desperately searching for any sliver of opportunity, any flicker of a chance. Artem, his young face a stark white mask of pure, unadulterated terror, mirrored our movements, his wide, haunted eyes darting between the menacing figures of the soldiers. "We're survivors," James said, his voice trembling slightly, despite his desperate attempts to project a semblance of calm and innocent desperation. "We mean you no harm. We were just passing through, looking for supplies." The lie felt thin and inadequate, even to his own ears. Survivors don't usually run through restricted sectors like they've got the devil himself on their heels. Another soldier sneered, his voice cold and devoid of any empathy, his weapon never wavering from its deadly target. "What were you doing in this sector? This area is under strict military lockdown." The carefully constructed lie caught in James's throat, feeling flimsy and utterly inadequate under their intense, unwavering scrutiny. How much should we reveal? How much did these soldiers already know about our escape? About the horrifying secrets we had witnessed within their sterile walls? The lead soldier advanced slowly, his heavy combat boots crunching ominously on the loose gravel underfoot, his rifle still pointed directly at Ivan's chest, a silent, brutal promise of lethal force. "Let's see what kind of supplies you've got then." He gestured curtly towards Sasha. "You," slowly. "Show me your hands. All of them." Sasha hesitated for a fraction of a second, her eyes locking with Ivan's across the narrow, tense space. A silent, desperate communication passed between them, a weighing of impossible options, a shared understanding of the deadly stakes. Then, slowly, deliberately, she raised her hands, keeping them open, palms facing outwards, revealing nothing but the dirt and grime of survival. Just as the lead soldier moved to physically search her, his gloved hand reaching out, a sudden, guttural roar ripped through the tense, suffocating silence of the ravine. But this was no ordinary infected sound. It was deeper, more primal, laced with a terrifying intelligence that sent a shiver of pure, unadulterated dread down our spines, a sound that spoke of something far more evolved, far more dangerous. The soldiers tensed, their attention momentarily diverted from us, their heads snapping upwards towards the source of the horrifying sound, their disciplined formation momentarily fracturing from the dense, overgrown foliage clinging to the steep slope above. A figure suddenly lunged, larger than any infected we had encountered, its movements disturbingly agile and coordinated, defying the lumbering, mindless gait of the undead. It wasn't one of the shambling, mindless dead we knew. Its limbs were elongated and powerful, its skin stretched taut over what looked like twisted corded muscle. Its eyes glowed with a feral, predatory intensity, and its jaws opened in a silent, horrifying scream, revealing rows upon rows of razor-sharp teeth that seemed far too engineered. A chimera, but bigger, faster, more terrifying than the one we had glimpsed in the facility. Panic erupted among the military patrol. The soldiers, moments before so disciplined and in control, scrambled backwards, their carefully maintained formation dissolving into chaos as they instinctively turned their weapons towards this new, far more terrifying threat that had materialized from the shadows. The chimera moved with a terrifying, unnatural speed, closing the distance in mere seconds, tearing into one of the soldiers with brutal, sickening efficiency before the others could even fully react. The sound of tearing flesh and muffled screams echoing through the ravine. This was our chance, a bloody, horrifying opportunity carved out by the very monsters the military had been so intent on controlling, perhaps even creating and unleashing upon this already ravaged world. "Run!" Ivan roared, his voice a primal bellow that cut through the escalating chaos, shoving Artem forward with surprising, desperate force. We didn't hesitate. We bolted, scrambling over loose rocks and fallen logs, using the soldiers' panicked disarray and the chimera's brutal assault as our only cover, our only hope. Gunfire erupted behind us, the sharp, disciplined cracks of military rifles now mixing with the horrifying snarls and guttural roars of the chimera, a gruesome symphony of death echoing through the narrow confines of the ravine. Our escape was a desperate, frantic dash for survival, caught between the hunters and the hunted, the pursuers and the pursued. The narrow ravine, moments before a potential trap, had become a deadly kill zone. The military patrol caught completely off guard by the very bioengineered horrors they had been studying, perhaps even creating and unleashing upon this already ravaged world. We didn't dare look back, our lungs burning with exertion, our muscles screaming in protest. The horrifying image of the terrifying, mutated infected burned indelibly into our minds. The sounds of the brutal confrontation, the screams of the dying soldiers, the horrifying snarls of the chimera gradually faded behind us as we plunged deeper into the relative, but still dangerous, safety of the dense, unforgiving woods. We finally collapsed, exhausted and terrified, in a small, hidden clearing nestled beneath the thick, intertwined canopy of ancient trees, the cold earth stark contrast to the sterile concrete we had so recently escaped. The sounds of immediate pursuit had faded, replaced by the relatively benign sounds of the forest, the rustling of leaves in the wind, the distant caw of a crow. What in God's name was that thing? Artem gasped, his voice barely a whisper, trembling with the lingering aftershocks of pure terror. Chimera, James said, the word heavy with a newfound dread, the terrifying implications of what we had witnessed sinking in like a lead weight. But bigger, faster, they weren't just containing them, they were evolving them. As we tried to catch our breath, a new sound reached our ears, cutting through the natural sounds of the forest. A rhythmic, almost mechanical clicking, growing steadily louder, closer. It wasn't the shuffling gait of the infected. It wasn't the disciplined march of soldiers. It was something else entirely. Ivan's eyes widened, a flicker of alarm replacing his usual stoicism. Not infected, not military. From the encroaching shadows of the trees, figures began to emerge. Human, undeniably, but unlike any survivors we had encountered before. They moved with an unsettling, almost unnatural coordination, their bodies adorned with scavenged pieces of metal and makeshift armor. Their eyes, visible through crude openings in their metallic adornments, held a cold, assessing intelligence, and they were armed with an assortment of brutal, scavenged weapons. The leader of the group stepped forward, his features obscured by a crudely fashioned mask of welded metal scraps. Well, well, his voice rasped, distorted by the metal covering his mouth. Look what the forest dragged in. You look like you've seen things, interesting things. His gaze fell upon the tablet, clutched tightly in Sasha's hand. And you have something we want. The rhythmic clicking sound grew louder, closer, emanating from unseen mechanisms attached to their bodies. Our escape from one nightmare had led us directly into another, a new, terrifying unknown lurking in the shadows of the wild.